Bismillah, and welcome to the 15 biggest lies of David Wood, refuted and exposed. Enjoy and share. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another production of Raddu Shubahat. And continuing with our series of the 15 biggest lies of David Wood, exposed and refuted, we have arrived at part number 4. And as you see on your screen, the title of which is The Thawing of Aisha Lie. This is a lie concocted by David Wood against the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he would practice or partake in some practice called thawing. And I will let him describe what his position is on this. And my disclaimer to Muslims who are watching is that in this video and other videos to come that deals with the personal life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from this individual, you're going to hear some very offensive and very disgusting things from him. And I'm just giving you a forewarning. But this in no way is an excuse to shy away from dealing with these things and exposing them, as that's what our job is, and that's what we're going to do. At the end of this video, we want to show a personal encounter and how myself and David Wood actually begin our encounters. For we had some very personal encounters through email. And I will leave this to the end of the video for those who are interested to see how our relationship began and the encounters we had through email in the beginning. But not only in this video will we expose this lie and bury this lie for what it is, that it will never be used again, as we try to do in all our videos, but also we will expose David Wood for the sick individual that he is and see the sickness and perversity of his mentality, as well as his disregard for truth and obsession with lying and lack of academic integrity. And I'm not saying this to call him names or to be offensive or disrespectful. I'm saying this is the reality of the matter. This is who he is. And I want the people to begin to see. I hope that his followers, his viewers, his fans can see this for what it is. I hope this video reaches David Wood, and I challenge him to respond to this video, as well as the other ones, as well as to a debate, as I have been offering for him to debate for some time now. And you're going to see in the end of this video, in the clip that we're going to play, in which I had a personal encounter with him on broadcast television, that I think David Wood is not interested in debating us. And after we finish this video, I think you will see and understand exactly why. So let us get into his argument. Let us do what we do to his arguments, is destroy it and refute it and bury it. And then afterwards, we'll share with you some history of me and him. And then we'll let you be the judge of this affair. Let us get to our refutation of him. We're going to play a video excerpt from him so he can present his case. And then we're going to do what we do, which is refute it, expose it, and bury it. Bismillah.
Means that if a girl is so small that you can't possibly enter her in sexual intercourse, then you engage in what was called thawing. Muhammad would engage in a practice called thawing when Aisha was 6 years old. Before he could actually have sex with her, she was too small before then. Before he could actually have sex with her, Muhammad, the greatest moral example, the example that you Muslims follow, would put his penis between her thighs and ejaculate on her.
Okay, astaghfirullah. So you hear his argument. His argument is predicated upon Aisha being too small for intimacy, and because of that, the Prophet ﷺ would practice something called thawing. I'm highlighting this aspect of it because David Wood alludes to in this video and also in his online article, a fatwa, that supposedly justifies this matter. We're going to deal with that fatwa, at least the principle of it, and then we're going to refute all of this. But I want you to keep in mind that this is his premise of this idea of thighing, that Aisha was too small, and because of that he had to partake in something like this. Listen to when he's challenged by his colleague, even though it's a really false challenge, it's just part of the show. But listen to his response. He brings nothing of substance. He brings no proof, no evidence, rather than I can bring you a fatwa. So if this is what he thinks is something to justify false practices or false accusations, then again it just shows him for what he is.
Because this is, people are going to be upset. Where does this come from? Is this just your opinion? Does some Christian guy tell you this? Or where do you find this?
No. You have this. You have this in fatwas, and if anyone wants to challenge,
you have this in fatwas. You have in fatwas what? That the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam engaged in this action because Aisha was too small to have intimacy, so he engaged in this. We challenge you, David Wood, to bring any fatwa that stated such. Any fatwa that stated that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, engaged in this activity because Aisha was too small to be intimate. So this is what the Prophet did, instead of having intimacy with her. Bring us any fatwa from any person, anywhere, at any time. We challenge you.
Challenge us on this. If anyone wants to challenge us on this, because I really don't like to talk about the thigh issue.
Sure, but I mean, you know, people are going to say, "Oh, you're making that up, you terrible Christian who hate Muslims. You're making that up." Come on, that's not.
So, rightfully so, even though it's scripted, but this Pastor Joseph there, yes, that would be the claim, and the response to Muslims is that you are making it up. And David Wood, from that time on, has brought nothing to prove that this was any activity attributed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and especially for the reasons that he brought up, which was because Aisha was too small. Now, he cited a fatwa in his article, and this is an article online. This is his website, Answering Muslims, and this is his article. Now, I'm going to show you again in the end, but this is my article that I wrote against him. I wrote this article against this article. So at the end of the video, we'll bring this up so you can just get a look at it and see my refutation of him a long time ago on this issue. But it's one that keeps surfacing. It's one that his followers and viewers persist in presenting as being factual. This is the fatwa that he presents, and it's a fatwa just that. I looked and I found this fatwa online, but I want to show you something quickly. As usual, Christian apologists got this accusation from Muslim scholars, a complete lie, who refer to the practice and their fatwas, legal rulings by Islamic scholars. There's nothing whatsoever that any Muslim scholars produce a fatwa for such a practice of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and especially because of this. He begins, there's been an interesting debate in recent years between Christian apologists and Westernized Muslim apologists over the Islamic practice of thighing. So he's identifying this as being some type of Islamic practice of thighing, in which involves a Muslim, more specifically Muhammad, putting his penis between the thighs of a virgin or a woman during her period and moving back and forth until he ejaculates. So this is stuff like this is what he presented. Let us take a look at the fatwa, and I want to take a look at it from the online source as to be fair to what he presented. This is a screenshot. I found the fatwa. Let us go to it and look at it. This is from a website called Islam Web, and this is the fatwa, Mufaakhathah. This fatwa has nothing to do with Aisha being young, had nothing to do with Aisha being too small, and because of that, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ engaged in this activity. Nor is this a practice of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ or Islam. Moreover, a fatwa, let us be clear on what a fatwa is. in contradistinction of what he mentioned to be a legal ruling. A fatwa is a non-binding legal opinion. It's a non-binding legal opinion that's produced by someone who should have the qualification to produce it based on his understanding of the sources of Islam to answer a question that's related to something that was presented. But again, it's a non-binding legal opinion. And it's also should come from someone who's qualified to produce it, a term that we know as what is called a mufti. In this online fatwa, there's no one name associated with it, who produced it, who said it. Moreover, it has nothing to do with or no relation to Aisha in particular being young or too small to engage in intimacy. Rather, it's about the practice of the wives of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when they were on their menses. Now, instead of looking at this fatwa, which is given here, which is has no basis for what they were presented, we want to go to the source itself and look at what the fatwa comes from. This is a hadith in Ibn Majah. We want to take it to a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, so that there's no question about its authenticity or the like, and look at what the hadith is talking about. If you look in Sahih Bukhari, the chapter fondling a menstruating wife. Fondling a menstruating wife. The hadith is narrated by Aisha, and she says, the Prophet ﷺ and I used to take a bath from a single pot while we were junub, or in a state of impurity. She was on her menses, so she was in a state of impurity, and the Prophet was needed to be a ghusl from being in junub. During the menses, he used to order me to put on izar, a dress worn below the waist, and used to fondle me. While i'tikaf, he used to bring his head near me, and I would wash it while I used to be in my period. So Aisha, she tells us what happened is that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, with her and his other wives, if they encountered their period, their menses, and he wanted to caress them, he wanted to hug them, he wanted to fondle them, or whatever the case, something that a man does with his wife, he would command her to put on an izar. So in the Arabic, you see that the word is izar in English, and I'm glad they gave the phonetics there, and they describe it as a dress worn below the waist, and we're going to see exactly what that is. But in the Arabic, she says that he used to command me fatu'azir, and that means to wrap myself with the izar. Now, keep this in mind. This is very important. This is very, very important, because remember what the claim is. The claim is that there's a practice called Mufaakhathah, which is playing with one's private organs between the thighs of a woman to the point of climax by the man. And in more particular, this was claimed upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Astaghfirullah. But this is what the claim is. This is what he's stating, right? So Aisha is saying that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to fondle her, he would command her to wrap herself with the izar. Let us understand the injunction in Islam behind the menses. Let us understand the injunction in Islam behind the menses. Allah in the Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala, He states about the menses, and they ask you about menstruation. Say it is harm. So keep away from your wives during menstruation. It is keeping away means to have no sexual encounter whatsoever with them. Intimacy with them. entering them in their state of menstruation. And do not approach them until they are pure. Do not go to have intimacy with your wives and enter them until they're completely pure, and they should be purified and make a ghusl from that, as Aisha is describing. And when they have purified themselves, then come to them from where Allah has ordained for you. Indeed, Allah loves those who are constantly repentant and loves those who purify themselves. So this is the injunction in Islam about a woman on her menses. It is a strong prohibition to approach a woman sexually and to try to come close to entering to her while she's on her menses. Because of this injunction, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he desired to be with his wives, caress them and touch them and be with them, which a man does with his wife, then he commanded them to make sure they would cover themselves. That way, he would not come close to being in violation of this command from the Quran about not approaching them or coming close to them at the time of their menses. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is exactly following the injunction that's given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to refrain from coming close to them in this area while they're on their menses. It doesn't mean you can't touch them. It doesn't mean you can't caress them. But you cannot have any intimacy with them and have any activity in that area. So this is what Aisha is describing. For someone to take this and in their imagination fathom that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to do something of this Mufaakhathah is just sick. Because remember what Aisha said, right? And I'm going to read the Arabic so you can understand this, because this makes it very clear. He used to command me. Here, in Arabic, for those who like to cheat Arabic and have no doubts about the issue. But the word in there is ya'muruni. He used to command me from Amr. He used to command me fa'atazilu, to wrap myself, to put on the izar. What is the izar? Let's go to look at what an izar is first from the visual. So we go to Google and we look at some images from the izar. And again, my apology, there are some images that's inappropriate, but you lower your gaze and you move on. Izar, this is izar. You see this here? This is what is termed a izar. You see this here? This is called an izar. These are good descriptions of what an izar is. You see this? This is izar. You see this picture here? This is an izar. You see? This is an izar. This is izar. So all these pictures of an izar, it's a cloth that you put on your waist to cover the bottom section of your body. This is an izar. And we can go on like that. You see, this is an izar. This is an izar. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is commanding Aisha to cover the bottom half of her body. Why? Because she's on her period. And the command in the Quran is not to approach them while they're on their period. So to make sure that there's no activity that takes place or anything happen in that area of her, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded her to put on an izar. I want to go to Lang's dictionary so we can see the definition of this word izar. We can see the definition of this word izar. In Lang's dictionary, the word izar is here. And it says, a thing well known, it goes, it's a waist wrapper. It's a waist wrapper. A wrapper for covering, or which covers the lower part of the body from the waist downwards, concealing the thighs and generally the upper half or more of the shanks. From the waist downwards, concealing the thighs. Why is this important that it conceals the thighs? Because Mufaakhathah means sitting between the thighs of someone. So this definition of izar from Lane's, which is one of the most celebrated English lexicons on Arabic language, he tells us that izar, it covers the lower part of the body from the waist downwards, concealing the thighs and generally the upper half or more of the shanks. And then he goes on to express what it is. Now, if we look at the word, fakhath, which is here, Mufaakhathah comes from. Mufaakhathah means he sat between the thighs of a woman. He sat between the thighs of a woman. And you can see Arabic here, Mufaakhathah. This is a word that's used supposedly in the Fatwa and supposedly by David Wood, which is termed in English, thighing. He sits, who performs or is about to perform the act of coitus. Means it's a man sitting between the thighs of a woman before or about when they're about to engage in sexual activity. This word, Mufaakhathah, and this expression is in complete contrast to Aisha wearing an izar. It's a complete opposite. He cites a hadith, and let's go back to the hadith here because we want to analyze it. And I'm not really pressed for time here. We're going to cover this issue and deal with it however long it takes us to deal with it. But we're going to bury this and expose it for what it is. Because I want the people to see just how disingenuous and a liar this individual is to no bounds. Aisha says that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he used to command me for ataziru, to wrap myself, to put on izar, which means to cover my thighs and everything in that area. How is it possible for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to engage in this activity of Mufaakhathah, which is sitting between the thighs, when he commanded his wives to cover their thighs and the bottom half of their body? It makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, also, the word that's used in this hadith for fondling is not the understanding that maybe people may have in English of fondling, the normal understanding. So let us go to that. But I hope this aspect is clear. If I stopped here, the argument is done. The case is done. Just from this alone, the case is closed. You see what an izar is. You read the definition of what an izar is from the dictionary itself. We read what the word Mufaakhathah is, and we heard what the argument is about Mufaakhathah or thighing. The hadith that they use to prove thighing is the very opposite of any practice of thighing. The very opposite. Now, fondling. What is fondling and used in this hadith? The word that's used, even in the chapter heading, is mubashara. Mubashara. And Aisha, she uses the verb that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that he used to fayubashiruni. He used to caress her. What does mubashara mean? Because I want you to be equipped with these words so you understand exactly what's being said in Arabic and what's being conveyed there, and not taking some English understanding and thinking that it means something that it doesn't. Again, we go to Lane's dictionary and we see what the word means. It says from this word bashir or bashir mar'a, like to yubashiruha, to engage her or to fondle her, caress her. He was or became in contact with the woman skin to skin. This is all this word means. It means skin to skin. If you hug or you in bed with your spouse and your skin touch her skin, then this is yubashira. This is to have this mubashara. This is what it is. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, if he was with his wives and he wanted to hug them, he wanted to caress them, he wanted to touch them, he wanted to kiss them, whatever it is, before doing so, he would make sure that they covered themselves so that no activity or nothing would be occurred in the area which is prohibited. and then he would engage them. And I have a question to ask. In all honesty, and since we're dealing with this, if a man has a wife and he wants to encounter her by hugging her and kissing her, and she happens to be on her menses, is there anything wrong with him hugging and kissing and touching his wife and avoiding the area which is prohibited? Men, you have wives. Wives, you have husbands. When the women experience their menses, does a husband completely neglect her? Do he say, okay, listen, you're on your menses, so I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to encounter you whatsoever? For non-Muslims, they may even encounter themselves on their menses, even in that area. This is not acceptable in Islam. But for women who have a decency and a type of purity amongst themselves, who don't engage in activity while in their menses, does that mean that the husband can hug you and caress you and kiss you outside of your private area? What would be the problem of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam hugging his wife, kissing his wife, fondling his wife over and above any area of the waist and downwards? Are we going to make as if somehow, because we have narrations about the private life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that normal things that husbands do with their wives is somehow now seen to be bizarre and unfitting? This is nonsense. But this is what people do to further their argument. They take words in English, they manufacture arguments, and they project it. And this is why we refute these issues. So it becomes clear now from these hadith, from the statements of the lexicon, the definitions, the pictures, you can see now clearly that this hadith has nothing to do with this lie of Mufaakhathah. Nothing to do with it. Rather, it's the opposite. Now, also in the article, David Wood, he goes on to mention about how the Prophet Muhammad, how did he get semen on his clothes? And you can read the article to get into the full argument. But how did he get semen on his clothes and like that? It's just, it's his mind is racing in all these different perverted directions to come to a conclusion of something that never took place. But I want to bring you another hadith in closing. And this is also narrated from a woman. The chapter of washing out the menstrual blood. Because one of the arguments is that Aisha used to wash off the semen that used to be on the clothes of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And their argument is that, well, how did the Prophet get semen on his clothes that Aisha needed to wash it off if he wasn't engaged in thawing? First and foremost, if the activity of thawing as they describe occurred, the semen wouldn't be on the clothes of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, it would be on the spouse in which he engaged activity in, if you took that argument. And again, my apologies to have to deal with this, but we have to refute it. But if you find that there was another occurrence where there was fondling and there was hugging and caressing, and as a result of that, a climax occurred and semen got on the clothes, then this is a normal activity that would happen between a spouse, especially given the fact that intimacy between the two is forbidden in that area for the woman. But listen to what the women used to do and say about cleaning. A woman asked Allah's Messenger, "Oh, Allah's Messenger, what should we do if the blood of menses falls on our clothes?" Allah's Messenger replied, "If the blood of menses falls on the garment of any one of you, she must take hold of the blood spot, rub it, and wash it with water, and then pray in it, or pray with it." The same thing the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do. If he had any type of impurity on his clothes, Aisha, she would wash it, and then he would go and pray in it. Why is this important? Why is this important? And another narration right below it mentioned about who? By Aisha herself. Whenever any one of us got her menses, she, on becoming clean, used to take hold of the blood spot and rub the blood off her garment and pour water over it, and wash that portion thoroughly, and sprinkle water over the rest of the garment. After that, she would pray in it, or pray with it. Aisha is narrating the same thing she should do to her clothes, she should do to the clothes of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another point to add here. Aisha is the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a wife, out of her relationship with her husband, she washes his clothes. What is so drastically strange about a wife washing the clothes of her husband in the 7th century with no washing machines? How else would you wash your clothes? So these are things that are normal for people, yet these people like David Wood trying to come up with stuff to make something seem that is not. I want to close with this hadith. Listen to this hadith because this puts everything in perspective. Listen to this hadith. And this also is narrated by Aisha. This hadith here, narrated by Aisha. None of us had more than a single garment. You hearing this? None of us had more than a single garment, and we used to have our menses while wearing it. Whenever it got soiled with blood of menses, we used to apply saliva, and also we know from other hadith, water to the blood spot, and rub off the blood with our nails. So Aisha is describing that we were people who didn't have much clothing. And when something of ours got dirty, we had to clean it before we could pray in it. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't have a wardrobe full of clothes. And if his clothes got soiled for any reason, Aisha, she would clean his clothes, and then he would use that clothes to go pray in. This is exactly the same way she narrated about her clothes. She narrated about his clothes. So this is perspective now. Now we can see exactly where this all falls into place. But as it relates to the idea of Mufaakhathah, it relates to this idea of thawing that is presented by David Wood, then we can see that this has no basis whatsoever. We gave you the definition from the Lang lexicon of Mufaakhathah. Again, here it is. Right, to sit between women's thighs. We gave you the definition of izar, which is a cloth that covers and conceals the thighs. So there's no way the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could have involved or partook in any act of thawing when he commanded his wives to cover their thighs and to cover themselves. We gave you the definition of mubashara, which is to become skin and skin, to contact in this way. So this is all of what we need to show how weak and unfounded this lie is. And that's exactly what it is. We also showed you what an izar is. And so you can actually see how the izar goes down to at least the shin and cover almost the completely bottom part of the body. Now, where is David Wood going to go from here? What lies is he going to bring up from here? He brings in this article these things that has nothing whatsoever to do with Mufaakhathah after that. So he brings one hadith that gives some type of indication of that. That's very hadith that he brought proves the opposite of it. And then he goes on and mentions other things that has no relation to thawing, but trying to justify the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his obsession with virgins and stuff like that. But this is a whole nother topic. And you read this article first, and then you read my article and see how I dealt with this article and destroyed it. The issue is done. It's over. I want to show you now in closing, just so you can understand David Wood and his mindset and what's going on, and specifically his relations to me personally. In 2014, I got in contact with David Wood and we began to share some emails. I invited him to a debate. He asked me, do I want to debate? This is his email to me. So you'd like to debate? And I answered in the affirmative, and I begin to express my case to him. I'll leave it here for a second or two. You can see it, and then you can pause your video and just see the correspondence there, and you can see, how this went down. I'm not going to go through all this and read all this, but you can see David Wood is very sour. He's very bitter, and he is indicative from his expressions that he don't have a problem with attacking Islam at any means, any cost. Especially when there is much means and much cost because he makes a living off it. But you screenshot this and you read it on your time and you see how the conversation went down. Eventually, David Wood sent me the article that he wrote, and that's the article that we alluded to here. That's his article. And then I wrote an article in response to that one, and this is what I told you about. That's my article here. So if you visit our website, which is attached to our YouTube channel, Raddu Shubuhat, you go to articles, go to refutations, and you see this article there with a couple other articles in the article section. I wrote the article and sent it to him and refuted his whole article point by point. I sent this to him, and from that time on, David Wood has been avoiding me. So much so that we get a video like this. And let me show you just how David Wood has been avoiding me. And watch him. Watch his facial expressions. As we get to the end of the video, you can see that the guy is alarmed and does everything in his ability to try to stay away from having to engage me. This is a clip of where I caught David Wood on live broadcast television. I called in, and this is his response. Pay attention.
Do we have another caller on the line?
Yes, hello.
Hello, is this Akil?
Yes, it is.
Welcome to the show, Akil. What can we do for you?
How are you, David?
Hi, I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
This is my stalker, by the way.
Akil, stalker?
Yeah, I don't know why they keep patching a guy through who's a complete stalker.
Okay, Akil, do you have a question for David Wood or for the rest of us?
I do very fast. I know you hit press on time, but why wouldn't you let me through, David? I mean, you welcome us to call in, you invite us to call, so when they call, am I supposed to be rejected?
No. If you are a stalker who stalks me online, who goes to every site and starts posting and stuff, and start telling people, you told the guys upstairs yesterday that you're going to hunt me down.
And I don't remember telling David that I was going to hunt him down. But I am trying to get in touch with him so we can schedule some type of debate. But unfortunately,
I'm not interested in talking to you on the phone. I feel sorry for any girl that you ever fall in love with because you are a stalker. So let's cut Akil. I can't give this guy attention, right?
I'm stalking.
So you see, he just said it. Let's cut him. I can't give this guy attention. Why? Because David Wood knows from what you've seen in the emails and the correspondence and everything that he knows that his arguments does not hold any weight and he's already been refuted. So to engage in someone that you know has already refuted you and can refute you, then I don't think that he would be interested in giving me any time in talking to me. But let us go on. I want you to look at his facial expression here at the end.
I'm talking to you because you're running. That's why. You're running away from me.
Okay, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and cut this off now. We're not getting away.
You see his facial expression? See, something is happening to him internally. Psychologically, is registering. You know, he's running, and now he has to face that reality, so he makes that expression. You can rewind it and review it and replay it, but you see, David Wood is very good in talking with his face when he wants to be sarcastic and things like that. So this was something that was unprompted, and I'm glad we have this clip to display for you all.
Where there's no question, there's simply kind of a argumentum ad baculum. He's trying to defeat you by making you fear.
Somebody's watching me. Oh man,
that's very good.
That was.
this is what happens when, you know, he's on the defense now. He becomes childish, and it's deflection. He don't want the attention to be on him because he realized he has been exposed. So this is his response, and you know,
I sound just like Michael, man.
Look at him. So this is, you know, this is David Wood. In closing, I want to just play this clip that we put together, another video called "In the Mind of David Wood," in which we really went into his mind to examine just kind of where in his focus is. We put together a collage of clips from different videos and different points of videos, and just show where David Wood focus is. I want to close with this so people can see who we're dealing with and his mindset, and now we understand and begin to see what kind of individual, sick individual that we're dealing with. Let us watch this and close.
Sex, rape, sex, rape, sex, intercourse, sex, rape, prostitution, rape, sex, rape, 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 sex, intercourse, sex, rape, prostitution, rape, sex, rape, sex.
So this is something we put together. I mean, and this is, you know, there could be much more than that, but we just took those clips. This is what you're dealing with. This guy is very sick. He's very perverted, and he has no problem with lying in his perversity and his sickness. He has a focus on infatuation, a fixation with the private life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he spends a lot of his material on that. I encourage you to watch this video if you want to see more detail as we highlight this in this video, In the Mind of David Wood. But this is what we wanted to bring. We hope the issue is clear now. This whole idea of thighing is a lie. It's baseless. It has no support whatsoever from any sources of Islam. It is not at all a practice of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the Muslims whatsoever. Rather the opposite, as we've seen from the verse in the Quran, from the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The very same hadith that he used to try to advance the idea of thighing is a very hadith that destroys his argument when we look at it and examine exactly what's said in the hadith itself from Aisha. So we hope this matter is clear now. We apologize that the video went even this long, but this matter is settled. The lying of thighing is done. It's been destroyed, it's buried. And then anyone that brings up this issue again, then just refer them to this video. And if this video ever reaches David Wood, and after the fact he brings up this issue, then again just know that the guy has an obsession with lying, and no problem in doing so. Pass this on, share it, and we hope that his followers begin to see what's going on and the truth of the matter. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.